Morning, everybody. Just going to reset this so the screen doesn't go off because then it'll be a pain in the butt. Before we get started, give it a few minutes. I can't see the screens. The phone's facing me because I want to go through the big screen here. This is my part 3 of Bill 32. I'm dressed up today because I have another 3 forums. I got lots of positive feedback last night, and I have 3 more forums to do today, so that's pretty good. We're going to talk about Bill 32 in its final now, specifically for primary sector workforces. What Jason Kenney and Jason Copping here, Minister of Labor and Immigration, they keep changing that name throughout history, and that's important here too because we see the great forced labor of foreign labor and immigration in the Soviet Union. It started in 1968. That's where this portion absolutely of Bill 32 absolutely comes from. When you look at history of countries, the portion that gets into construction, labor, all of our primary sector, mining, construction, manufacturing, and transportation, which currently in Alberta is only 30% of our GDP. So, sorry, I have to do this again one more time. So when we get into labor and the primary sector, what people don't understand, what people like Jason Kenney and Jason Copping aren't telling every citizen across Alberta, with a $300+ billion GDP and 30% of that comes directly from primary sector. That primary sector, when you tax the employees inside of primary sector, 100% of their taxes go into the system for revenue, meaning those workers absolutely provide the wealth of Alberta. That is a fact. It's not to put other industries down. We need lawyers, we need doctors, we need teachers, we need dentists. The list goes on and on. But they don't create wealth. Now, if you're manufacturing supplies for those industries to sell outside your country, great, that creates wealth for a nation, for a province. What's happened here with Alberta, comparatively to the rest of Canada, is we've allowed our Premier to incorporate massive cuts in labor, wages, almost all overtime, been cut and slashed, to the point that with averaging agreements, what we're going to get into with Bill 32, who's championing it and who they are, they're large international multinationals. They have strong history with communism, absolutely. So when you listen to these people that we're going to go through and what they've provided from the government of Alberta's website, these are their speeches out to all of you, telling you how great and wonderful Jason Kenney and Jason Copping are with the Bill 32 and just how wonderful it is what Alberta's done. And I want this to be understood very well. Whether you're a non-union or a union sector worker, because we're going to hear their testimonials. And I promise you, everybody, Alberta Building Trades absolutely got the same deal that we're going to go through with CLAC in Bill 32. A very communist labor practice that hasn't been seen since 1968 USSR. Currently, it's administered in communist China. I don't know about North Korea and other communist nations. I usually always go to China as the go-to. But USSR, that is all really published and really in history, where we get into this portion of Bill 32. Now, they said our government, this is Jason Copping now, Minister of Labor and Immigration. He says, our government was elected on the promise of supporting employee choice and bring back balance to Alberta's labor laws. This bill will do just that and also help businesses save time and money, letting them focus on getting Albertans back to work while protecting workers. He said Bill 32 will provide employees and employers with clearer, more transparent rules, promoting fairness and productivity, including more clarity about rest periods and temporary layoff notices. So what Bill 32 now does which all comes from 1968 USSR, is, according to what he is outlined in fairness, basically you only get 1 half hour break in a 12-hour period if the company wishes to do that to you. Doesn't matter union or non-union, you won't be able to argue that anymore. That's what you get. You are to work a minimum of 5 hours straight before you get a half-hour break. Okay? He says, which the Soviet Union did in 1968. Then he says, protecting workers, make it transparent, and employees are clear with transparent rules for productivity, including more clarity about temporary layoffs. So layoffs now, they can lay you off by doing averaging agreements, not paying you overtime. They can work you up to 84 hours a week with zero overtime. Zero overtime. They can bank that now, not paying you anything, holding that revenue. You provided a service, they hold that revenue in account, and when it's time to lay you off, they can administer that at regular time. You don't get EI, you don't get anything. They say this will make sure that you're benefited with a 40-hour average work week throughout a year. However, when we look at manufacturing hours, construction hours, and you go through all the primary sectors, those workers over the last year, since July this bill ratified, nobody's getting those hours. Nobody's getting anything. So they're actually averaging about 13 hours. And when they did work, they worked 7/12s, received absolutely no overtime. Not only that, they didn't get paid benefits on any of their overtime. Social Security and benefits completely removed. This was absolutely done in the Soviet Union. All of those people from 1968 to 1979 Soviet Union could not retire on any wages from any of those sectors, according to Bill 32, which only exists in one other place, USSR, 1968 to 1979. And all those workers in that primary sector only had 13-hour week average retirement banks. That's all they had. Could you live on your wages 13 hours a week in retirement after working your entire working career and having this happen to you? That's what Jason Copping's done. Now let's look at the sponsors of this communist bill. Sorry. So, we're going to look at Frederick Wine, chairman of Alberta Construction Association. Alberta Construction Association applauds the government of Alberta for introducing greater flexibility and reduced red tape in averaging agreements, hours of work, and temporary layoffs. Changes to the employment standards support seasonal remote project-based construction jobs while maintaining fairness in the workplace. Fairness for who? You go work 24 days straight, 7/12s. You get paid 40 hours a week regular time. They bank all your overtime. They don't pay you anything for the overtime that you provided in that remote location, away from your family, on a shutdown, servicing any one of a number of mining, construction, manufacturing jobs. They isolate you. They send you out for extreme hours, no overtime. All your benefits don't get any paid over from those overtime hours. You don't get any overtime for those benefit hours. So when you come back, you're laid off, they're going to pay you out the rest of your overtime at regular time, and no overtime benefits, no overtime pension. Zero whatsoever. So, sure, a guy works 84 hours a week, 24 12s. If he had had the normal time and a half agreement and averaging, he would have had all the money up front while he worked. He would not have had to come home. He can't collect EI because he's getting paid this regular time on his overtime for the next 2.5 months. Sure, him and his family, while he looks for another job that doesn't exist, and we go into COVID lockdown. That's what Frederick Vine, chairman of Alberta Construction Association, says is perfectly legal, absolutely fair. And what you're all not understanding here is that those reductions are also reductions in tax revenue. There's no more overtime in general revenue, which is 100% into the pot, our revenue side of the equation for Alberta. All of these workers, I'm one of them, all of these workers, literally hundreds of thousands of workers in Alberta. They absolutely fund the police. They absolutely fund healthcare, all public sector workers. They pay into the service sector industry, whether that's food, hospitality, the list goes on. 70% of our GDP comes from, majority of it, the people who work under this agreement. And it's been cut by 30%. The revenue side of our taxes in Alberta has successfully been cut by 30%. It's billions of dollars, everybody. It's going to mean literally $8 billion a year, which you've already seen Jason Kenney's radical deficit. We didn't get any more jobs. We didn't get any more investment. We only made 3 or 4 people and another 8 multinationals extremely wealthy. In fact, in Alberta, they walked away with $8.8 billion. It was taken from your revenue stream. Jason says that promotes growth in the industry. Where are the jobs, Jason? Where are the mighty investments? There isn't any, because that's not how the industry works. There's nothing economical about it. It is 100% communism. Then we have Dennis Perrin, Provincial Director, Christian Labour Association of Canada. These proposed changes in the provisions governing employees in the construction industry are a major step in the right direction for working Albertans. These changes represent good public policy that promotes fair and healthy competition among unions while enhancing worker choice and workplace democracy. That is the biggest lie sold to you by an absolute communist. Now, Dennis Perrin with the Christian Labour Association of Canada and the internationals with the Alberta Building Trades, even though they knew well and better not to post anything on this website, Government of Alberta. But this brave Dennis Perrin does, and this is the communist side of it. Every Albertan watching this, for non-union watching this, promoting healthy competition among unions while enhancing worker choice and workplace democracy. Absolutely zero democracy. What Bill 32 gives these labor organizations in labor relations against the non-working Albertans and employers, it gives them free rein to negotiate all union contracts without going to the local workplace, the workers in the union locals. Zero say in all contracts. They're to be done on the national and international level, meaning companies that come from communist China, from the Middle East, from Saudi Arabia, without trying to offend these countries. That's how they practice law, in absolute total dictatorship, human rights violations, and absolute communism. They get to come here, and the unions now administer their communism, their dictatorship style, by negotiating all contracts. No union worker gets a vote on any more contracts. It's against the law in Canada. Absolutely. It's against the law in Alberta. It loses in the Superior Court. These guys are all breaking the law. And Jason Copping said, that's okay. I'm going to break the law too. I'm a minister. Bill 32 gives me crown power. You can read the Lieutenant Governor clause when Jason Kenney picks up the crown of the Queen of England and proclaims himself King of Alberta, as he passes these kinds of absolutely illegal laws right here in Alberta, stripping you of freedom of expression. That's in Bill 32. You are no longer allowed to protest. All of you protesters right now going through your fines, going through all these harsh administrations. It was the unions that fought for this stuff and won it for you. passed in our Superior Court right here in Alberta, passed in the Supreme Court of Canada, ratified into binding law right here for the nation of Canada and all its provinces. Excuse me. Jason Kenney and his band of 3 have decided to make laws against all of you, strip you of all your charter rights and freedoms. Your Supreme Court of Canada, Superior Court of Alberta, judgments bolstering those laws, putting them into actual law, binding law that matches human rights, world laws given to us from 1948. Jason Kenney decided to place a crown on his head, use a power of our Constitution, proclaiming himself King of Alberta and stripping all of you of every right and freedom you've ever had. This isn't the only bill, but Albertans, it's very important to look at this. You have lost over $8 billion directly from the revenue side of your provincial budget just in this 6-month period alone. And Jason Kenney says, oh, it's going to bring a lot of work. Tell that to all the companies he shut down over COVID. Tell that to all the investors who continue to flood out of Alberta at a record pace. Because of carbon tax, Paris Climate Accord, none of these industries are coming back anytime soon or for the foreseeable future. Jason Kenney and Jason Copping are getting extremely rich by betting with multinationals and labor organizers from 3 groups. They're absolutely stripping Albertans of everything. They are the ones defunding the police. They are the ones defunding the public sector, our healthcare, our education. They're the absolute ones responsible for why the revenue is going into foreign pockets who are not reinvesting it back into your region. That's an absolute reality. They still want the product. They still make tremendous amount of money. But Jason Kenney says, make more money. Don't worry about it. Take it. Run with it. Just remember me when I get kicked out of office next year, 2023. That's what this is. Now, I've made this presentation absolutely for primary sector workers and absolutely for the unions, the Alberta Building Trades and primary sector unions. It's going to go out as the closing of part 3. I'm going to add that. And I'm calling for signatures. Email Dave, vjbjorkman@gmail.com. Add your name to a growing list of Albertans who are going to fight this misuse of Crown power, this anti-democratic position that Jason Kenney's taken since he became Premier of Alberta, where he most absolutely adds, in just the last 8 bills he's created, absolute Crown power and authority, taking away all accountability and responsibility to you, the people, and giving it to only one power, that constitutional monarchy power. Taking away everything that you have fought for over the history of being an Albertan, all your ancestors fought for. Freedom of association, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, civil rights and property, your gun rights. There's going to be literally seven presentations for 7 groups attached to this. Now, you may not support religion, you may not support property rights, you may not support people having guns, the list goes on and on. But I target each and every group. This Bill 32 is absolutely for Labour in Alberta. And I ask all of you to step forward and put your name on this letter that's going to go to the UK Crown, highlighting the abuse of power by Jason Kenney and Justin Trudeau. It's been done federally too. That shows them usurping that Crown power that's been illegal since 1948. Absolutely abolished by 1952 in Canada. But yet, we have Jason Kenney, Justin Trudeau doing that today against all of you. This letter is going to go to the Queen of England. It's going to go to UK Parliament. And more importantly, it's going to the UNSC Binding 5. I've talked to several lawyers, Alberta's best constitutional lawyer, Canada's best constitutional lawyer, the world's best constitutional lawyers, 3 of them, 2 of them from the United States of America. There are human rights issues here that span this bill and many other, including federally, that I absolutely would like to take guys like Dennis Perrin to the Human Rights Commission. I would like to take him to that court of justice, that international court of justice. There's a professor in Ottawa. I would like to do that as well too. There's several people I'd like to put on this list and absolutely file. I don't know if I'm going to do that yet. I don't know if that's going to be part of this letter. I have literally 24 hours to figure it out. But I've taken everybody's advice from the best of the best. And it's mixed. It's a mixed review. So we're going to see, but absolutely, if this bothers you, and it should, if you're a working stiff in the primary sector, GDP, manufacturing, construction, transportation, mining, if that's you, this should absolutely upset and disgust you. You should absolutely put your name forward. And I ask every Albertan to do that. Thank you for your time. I'm dressed up today because I got some pretty extensive forums to do here again today. But thank you all. Please share. Get this out. Get your name forward. I'm going to edit and add my email at the top introduction too. I forgot to do that. But thanks. I know.